globally.
Hi Rajesh, it's such a pleasure to meet with you and to be able to talk to you after we've been waiting for this moment to launch our partnership and also the product that you already selling so successfully into the school. So just for the benefit of other people, Rajesh is the co-founder and CEO of Resolute Education, and Oxford University Press is working with them to bring a solution into the school environment. So I thought, Rajesh, maybe I can ask you, why is it important and why is it significant to introduce coding and robotics into schools now?
Yeah, I think the origins of the company, it was very much from my personal experience. I think when I went into engineering, I didn't do IT or any of the tech-based subjects when I was in school. I actually took IT in grade 10 and I dropped it. And going into electronics and seeing all of it for the first time was very overwhelming, and I actually didn't enjoy it until I saw the practical side of things when things came alive. So for me, being in love with education, I was like, how can kids be exposed to this at a younger age? I think we all know the fact, I think the World Economic Forum predicts in the next few years almost everyone in the job industry needs to be retrained to keep up with the growth in tech. And so the idea is, how do we start introducing these concepts for kids at a very young age? Coding and robotics for the foundation phase is very much computational thinking. How do we get comfortable? How do we get them comfortable with the hardware and the software that they're programming in the days that they actually live in? So I thought, rather prepare the students, and even if they do want to go pursue a field in anything actually, whether it's drama, it's in the cultural side of things, it's in the sports side of things, or in the business side of things, having a base like understanding tech through the lens of coding and robotics just sets you up for your future. Doesn't matter what profession you want to do. So I think it's very, very important to prepare our kids for it, and also teaches them how to think logically and to instill those skills at a young age, makes them comfortable in the world that they're going to live in.
Okay, so here's the $1,000,000 question. People often say, I don't need to engage with this because I'm not technologically inclined and coding and robotics is not for me. What's your take on that?
I think looking over the years, I think there is a big fear and there's a big misconception that tech-based fields like robotics and coding is for the brighter kids, which is completely false. I truly believe that everyone can start at their own pace, and you can do CAT and you can do maths literacy, and you can still start getting into robotics and coding. Awesome. So I think robotics and coding is available for everyone, and so is any of the tech-based subject. There is a big misconception in the market that kids who do better in IT or in maths, they have an appetite for it, but I don't think that is the case. I think anyone can start and get entry into it. I think it depends on how far you want to take it. I think right now, technology is evolving into every aspect of our life, in medicine, in farming, in the food industry, in the travel industry. So it doesn't matter what your profession is. I think if you have a strong understanding and a base of it, you can use it to your own leverage to do well in the fields that you want to pursue. So I think students just should start seeing it as, rather than something that I have to learn, rather seeing it as a kind of a superpower that they could use and leverage and to advance in success in the fields that they want to pursue one day.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see whether fast forward 20 years from now, whether it will be an essential skill that every human being will acquire by that stage, at least up until the basic level, like numeracy and literacy skills.
Absolutely,
That's interesting. But, so if I'm a teacher and I want to start with coding and robotics, where do I start? What do I do?
I think there's an exciting aspect to it, and then there's the reality side of things. I think every teacher has a genuine passion for teaching and a love for their kids. They all want to see their kids do well. But transitioning that as well into introducing such a new subject, the first biggest thing is there's the fear. There's a fear that, am I capable to teach this new subject? Do I have the right skill sets to stand in front of the class and teach it as well? So I think when schools are making a decision, there's two aspects to it. There is a setup aspect of robotics and coding, that's to ensure that you bought the right products, you've trained your staff, and that you're ready to actually teach it. But the most important concepts that I think globally there's a struggle in is that continuity aspect of it, because I think anyone can buy the right products, or buy any product set up, but if it's not being used, the excitement initially that was there starts to run out. So for a school who is considering to buy it, is to think, in your perspective, is there a solution that holistically fits into everything that you want to do? So looking at your infrastructure, looking at your classroom time, at your schedules and the staff and the capabilities you have, how do you implement a program that's not just exciting at first and you've bought all the products, but that's continuous? Things like, is there a progressive curriculum for it? Is there a curriculum that goes from grade 1 all the way to grade 9 or into university? What is the outcome for it? Do we have the right infrastructure? So those are all the things that they need to consider. I mean, if our teachers, so usually at schools it always goes on to any STEM field teachers, to a maths teacher or a science teacher or IT teacher to lead it. So schools should be asking, how can we upskill these teachers? How can we get them confident enough to get to a place where they can conduct it in class as well?
And you offer training to the teachers, and just to state as well that there's a very firm curriculum or well-researched curriculum underpinning the material, and you work alongside the teachers to get them up to a level where they feel comfortable teaching that.
Yeah. So because of the nature of the subject, and there is an aspect of complexity to it, we've gone in with an approach of where the facilitator learns and gets comfortable over the years. So we do have a very well SACE endorsed programs where teachers can actually get CTDP points when they train with us. So initially our training is very much aimed at a 12 to 24 hour training session to get the teachers firstly familiarized with why robotics and coding. How does this fit into their narrative? Because that buy-in is very important. What we find in a lot of schools is without teachers actually asking for it, this is forced on them to kind of teach it. So the first few sessions is focused on why, and get them excited and get them actually wanting to learn with the kids and showing them that it's actually so possible and easy. I think once that is done correctly, then the skill side of things and them mastering it comes over the years, and they learn actually with the kids. So once I understand the ecosystem side of things and they get set up, then we focus on actually teaching them the complexities that come with it. And so what we've done is we've created we've taken all the fundamentals that a student would require in a curriculum, and then we've kind of made it into a curriculum that makes sense. So very similar in maths, you start with addition, subtraction before going on to algebra. So we've figured out at the base perspective what are all the concepts that teachers and students should know, and how is it then categorized into the right year so that there is that progressive curriculum when teachers and students are learning.
Did you find that you needed to adapt the curriculum as students were using it in the classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. So me and my co-founder Gareth, we actually did electronic engineering. So when we started off, we actually started off with a high school curriculum that was very electronic, intense focused. And what we realized very soon was we were doing a curriculum that was, it's kind of so intense in the beginning that kids might not enjoy it. And they have to stick with it for long periods of time before they see the success of it. So that was a big learning factor for us to say, kids actually want to have fun in the beginning, and we also need to get their buy-in to see the excitement of it. So that kind of feedback got us to think, how can we simplify the product and then start to make it complex as they start getting into it? And so that's what we focused a lot on. So our product range initially started for the high school kids. It was very electronic focused, it had Arduino microcontrollers in, and then based on that we saw that the demand was also with the younger kids, and then we phased our product from there all the way to foundation phase. But with everything, we want to show the kids that it's fun, it's easy, and then once they buy into that, then you can easily get into the complex side of things.
Yeah. So initially, I think you launched with the technology part and the kit and so on. And then as you work with teachers in the classroom, you learned that there was a print component required in the classroom.
Yeah.
And that is where we then came in, and also because of our experience in the classroom, which is a very good partnership, bringing strengths, our own strengths to the project. What was it that was driving it for teachers? Why did they feel that they needed a print component?
Yeah, so I think when introducing something new, one has to understand that it has to fit into an existing framework, right? You can't just bring in something new and expect adoption overnight. So when you look at me, I fluctuate between taking notes on an iPad, but I always go back to a book. It just makes sense to me. Kids are still writing their final exams on paper. And if you look at the school narrative, most of it is still, as much as we're striving to get to a paperless solution, schools find themselves that books is an integral part of their offering. And it will be. Specifically when you look at most of the emerging markets and you look at the economy we're facing in terms of load shedding crisis and infrastructure, there will be a lot of classes where there might not be power, for example, and you will have to fall back on kits. And it's also something that they're growing with. So in terms of our offering, we realized that although we started creating theoretical PDFs in the beginning and we had it on our platform, teachers would print it out, and we started noticing the patterns that teachers still would like to use books. And so we realized that why fight it? Rather, let's embrace it and provide an offering where they're comfortable in the ecosystem in terms of teaching. They're already learning so much new, and giving them something that they're familiar with would make sense. So we explored into that vertical, and that's when we partnered with Oxford to say, instead of us trying to reinvent the wheel and trying to understand how to do it, let's rather partner with specialists in the field that they could roll out the book side of things.
It is that reinforcement of whatever they learn in a different environment. That the teacher, I think, would like to still see on paper. That is quite important. But so then the other question that we get all the time is it what is the cost attached to implementing this in the classroom?
In terms of costing, I think it's very difficult to say that we have a very fixed approach because each school is different. Each school has their own different sets of priorities, different budgets, and how they want to implement it. So we have kind of a tiered approach that we work with schools. We kind of want to kind of deconstruct the cost of it in a sense that when schools think of robotics and coding, it's a very binary mindset that they approach. They either say, oh my gosh, I need to have the most incredible STEAM lab or innovation lab with all the bells and whistles of 3D printers, drones, and everything working, or I can't do anything. And that's the kind of stigma we want to break, to say it doesn't matter where you are as a school, you can get started at a very minimum cost. You can share bots with students, you can start with a basic coding approach, or you can build on as you go. So some of the schools that we have a very good mix between the public schools and the private schools. We've made it very affordable to both sets of schooling groups as well, and we also grow with the school. So sometimes schools start very small. We'll see some of our oldest clients started as a club approach in grade 8 and 9, and then they integrated into their in-curriculum, and then they've started moving it down to intermediate phase and the foundation phase. So schools can also start small, and they can also start with what they want. So if they would just like the basics of, we would like a curriculum, we would like some kits and some books to test the product out, they can, and they can do it at a very cost-effective rate. If the school's ready, I mean, a lot of schools are starting to recruit robotics and coding teachers, they have the budget, then they can go the full implementation as well. So our offering is to kind of meet with the school and to understand how we can help them and propose a solution. Sometimes we go as far as to also analyze, so sometimes we go as far as to even analyze what the school has. So some schools have already invested in some older range of products and they're hesitant of, can we still use this? So we actually encourage, rather than just on-selling our own products, we kind of also tell them, you can use this in this phase, but rather use this in this phase. We also guide them through a solution that makes sense for them and where they are sell at that point kind of thing.
Okay, and how many schools are already using the product?
Yeah, so currently we have over 200 schools using our product, with over
All
50,000.
in South Africa? Or?
No, so we're in 6 countries. So we have some our neighboring countries in the SADC region that are using our product as well.
Fantastic.
We have schools in Namibia, Botswana, and we're piloting some in India, but we're using South Africa as the absolute base that we can launch into Africa with. And most of our schools are in South Africa, and we're getting a lot of feedback in implementing our products over the past 3 years. And from this 200 schools, we actually have 50,000 students that are using it on a daily basis, and that kind of feedback is very important to us in improving our curriculum and our offering.
I think it's important for teachers to know that, because we found that teachers like to know whether other teachers are happy and whether they actually enjoy using the product. So it's very good that we already have champion schools that we can go to and see how the product is used in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Besides the school space, I'm also aware of other interesting developments and other segments. So can you share that with us?
Yeah, so recently in the TVET space, the DHET has launched a robotics, coding and electronics curriculum, and it's received a lot of excitement, and so we've created an integrated workbook that helps make the curriculum come alive so kids can actually practically practice what they're learning. And we've had about an overwhelming adoption of it. We have about 80% of the TVET colleges that are subscribed and using it, so we're quite excited about the growth in that field as well.
Yeah, unfortunately the numbers are still small in the TVET space, but I'm sure it will be growing, so it will be a great opportunity for both of us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a real pleasure to talk to you, and I really look forward to take this to market and to look back in 3 years' time and see how successful we've been taking a joint solution to solve some of the problems in our classrooms and in our TVET colleges.
Thank you so much.